I'll tell you, Nathan, this whole second wave of corona that's going on and the quarantine, swear to God, sometimes I feel like I am trapped in the same room all day long.
Interesting. Interesting. And how is this room? Is it just a four-wall room? Is there windows? Is there a door?
Well, yeah, I don't live in a geodesic dome.
Oh, okay. So it's not round. You're saying it's not a round.
Not round, but this is a real
It's not like
process of
Spaceship Earth.
elimination for you.
Okay.
There is a door. I haven't been hermetically sealed inside some sort
Okay.
of space
Okay.
cube.
Okay.
No, but sometimes I feel like I'm trapped. Sometimes I feel like I'm John Travolta in that movie, The Boy in the Plastic Bubble.
Okay. This is weird
What?
because I just watched that movie this week. Have you seen this movie?
Are you kidding me? I just watched the movie this week.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wait,
Hold
hold on.
on. Are you recording this conversation?
I am.
I'm recording this conversation. Nathan, this is the podcast.
This is the show. This is the episode.
This is the show. We finally cracked it. Us
Awesome.
casually recording every conversation we have has really paid off.
Finally, I can throw away that 15 petabyte hard drive I have.
Well, keep it because we are going to donate that to the Library of Congress when we both die on the
Yeah,
same
that
day.
is true.
Yes.
That is true. They will want that.
Right, because we both watched The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, which, of course, originally came out November 12th, 1976. And it stars John Travolta. Yeah, it stars John Travolta, Glynis O'Connor, Robert Reed, and PJ Soles.
Oh, wow. Wait, who's PJ Souls in this?
PJ Soles plays the high school friend who is a little ditzy. She asks John Travolta if he is really from space when he says that he's a spaceman. That's PJ Soles
she's
1
at
year
the top
before.
of the list?
Yeah, well, only because she's famous from the Halloween movies and from Rock and Roll High School. So people like to point out anytime PJ Soles shows up in something.
Okay. Yeah, we did. And have you seen this movie before you watched it?
I had never seen this movie. This movie is weirdly referenced all the time in pop culture. Mm-hmm. You know, Paul Simon wrote a song about it.
Well, did he write it about the movie or about the actual boy?
I believe he wrote it about the actual boy.
Okay, all right.
But just the term in culture, I guess it was used in Seinfeld and Family Guy, and people still refer to it. And yes, it's based on a couple real life cases of people who had to live in hermetically sealed containers, basically. But people reference this movie still. It's still talked about, I'm assuming because John Travolta's in it. But I'm also guessing that a lot of people must have watched this movie when they were kids and it made a big mark on them. Had you seen it?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I distinctly remember tons of scenes from this. So I must have watched this a lot. I feel like, I wonder if I would have watched. I wonder if a teacher would have shown it in school, maybe.
I was going to ask what this was played on if you had seen it, because you're 76 is, you would have been not even born, right?
Right. So it would have been a rerun, obviously. But I watched so much TV as a kid. What station did this air on?
This was ABC.
Okay. Yeah. Surely they would have played. Surely they must have played it. They probably played it they just reran it on a Sunday night movie or something.
Maybe. And maybe it kept getting hauled out just because you have Travolta as the lead.
Yeah.
Maybe you couldn't go wrong.
Had he done? Is this before? Is this after?
This is smack in the middle of Welcome Back, Kotter.
Okay, so he's in the show. Okay.
Right. And Saturday Night Fever would be the next year.
Okay. Yeah, Meredith asked me if he did this before or after, and I was like, I think this was a time where if you did movies, you didn't do TV. Is that true?
Well, we've talked about it before. There was definitely that vibe pre streaming everything that if you were doing TV after you did movies, you were on the way down.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
this, I think, was Travolta proving he could do something other than a sitcom.
And he's playing a character named Tod Lubitch. Do you notice the spelling of his name?
Lubitch.
No, the Todd.
Oh, Tod.
Tod.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Todd spelled with only one D?
Todd Browning. It's
Who's
the
that?
it's a more English way.
It's Todd Brown.
Todd
Oh,
Brown.
okay.
It's a yeah. Todd Browning is a movie director who directed the movie Freaks.
Oh gosh. Todd. I mean, that's not a huge like portion of the movie. Them talking about what they're gonna name him, but
No, there is no scene. In fact, his Travolta's dad in this movie calls him son all the time.
yeah.
It's really
well,
weird. Son. Hello, son.
So you've already said that it's Robert Reed, right? Robert Reed.
The dad from Brady Bunch himself.
Yes. Yeah. That's what that's what I was gonna say. So he already has, that very much like still in that sitcom dad from the 50s and 60s or whatever of, I don't know, like sitcom dads today are all dummies. But sitcom dads back then were like, upstanding gentlemen.
Good
and
point.
that's how he is in this.
Yeah. And he's still in the Brady Bunch, I want to say. 74 Brady Bunch ended.
Okay.
So he's trying to get some other work. I know that Robert Reed was always frustrated because he really did not care for the Brady Bunch, and he always kind of wanted to be a, quote, real actor, and he just kind of knew when Brady Bunch hit big, I'm never really going to do anything else. This was pre Quentin Tarantino could swoop in and rescue you from
right.
those kind of bogs.
Did they ever were there any actors that were like family roles that then went on to do some crazy thing like they do today?
Well, who was the guy who was in My Three Sons, who then played the absent-minded professor and a lot of other movies, but definitely like more family movies, I want to say.
Yeah, I don't remember who it is.
I mean, the answer is yes.
Okay. Did you see who executive produced this?
Aaron Spelling.
Yes.
He was in the middle of producing Charlie's Angels when he did this.
And was Charlie's Angels on ABC?
I don't know. Probably.
Okay.
He probably had a relationship with the network.
Yeah. So this, and who is the mother in this? Glynis O'Connor?
No, the mother in this is Diana Hyland.
Okay. So is Glynis O'Connor his
Gina,
neighbor?
the girl next door? Yes. And this movie, as we've kind of alluded to, as you probably kind of already know, the listener, is about a young boy who plays by John Travolta when he's a teenager, who has a deficiency named SCID, SCID, which is severe combined immunodeficiency, which is a real disease. And this is kind of a combination inspiration of two people, David Vedder and Ted DeVita, who were both born with this, and they were both kind of coined the boy in the plastic bubble. David Vedder was the first one and the slightly more famous one. Ted came afterwards. David lived until he was 12 years old, and Ted lived until he was 18. And they both...
How did Ted die?
Complications of his disease. Let's see here.
Did
He died from an iron overload from too many transfusions of bone marrow.
Oh, okay. So,
And
but neither of them lived outside the bubble for a comfortable time and then died.
neither of them left the bubble. And
Okay.
I'll kind of get into details as we go through this. But
Yeah.
primarily, if they were born, they were immediately diagnosed. They had to be in a capsule with, kind of glove insertions on either side. It looks like when people are handling nuclear waste.
Or Jurassic Park
Or
eggs.
when you're, unless you're John Hammond, and then you just stick your finger in that egg.
Yeah.
And in both cases, they kind of had their infancy in the hospital, and then they were transferred to their parents' houses, but still had to live in these sealed off tents, which had a lot of air vents that would blow air currents through, because if they had any germs in their system, they would become very ill and kind of immediately die.
Yeah. I always think about that. So so in this, he's, he has an open door,
Yeah.
when he's older, and, the door just has air blowing out of it. And I always think of this whenever I go to, like the zoo or something, and you go down here in Florida, especially, and you go into one of the buildings and they have one of those massive, like, air conditioners
Hmm.
right at the door. That
Yes.
just blows air straight down that you stand under for 2 hours
Yes.
because you're so hot. And every time I walk through, I picture myself as him going, like, leaving the bubble. That's how much I watched this, I guess, as a kid.
Um, so both of these individuals were the subject of a lot of press attention, and neither of them lived lives with much privacy. Obviously, they were kind
Right.
of under not scrutiny, but just especially in that era, I think people maybe weren't as tactful about leaving the family be. They kind
Okay.
of treated these kids like hamsters a little bit until the kids were old enough to speak for themselves.
Isn't that like, I read something that there was an accusation that the doc the doctors convinced the parents to have another baby so that they could basically have him as an experiment for all their testing.
Wow.
That was an
There.
accusation that the parents were like, no, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
But it seems like they kind of touch on it a tiny bit in this.
Oh, I didn't get that impression from this. I haven't heard that accusation, but I didn't go too deep down the rabbit hole on it. But there are some really crazy accusations that people have made about these families, including one of them wanted a child free from sexual sin, and that's why they didn't progress him any further. It gets very weird and very
Well, I'll tell you what.
dark when you're
This
talking about kids.
I'll tell you what. In this movie, I mean, there's some sexual sin going on, baby.
So the movie opens up. We don't have to go scene by scene on this, but I guess if
No,
we're
no.
talking about the doctor, the husband and wife are gardening in their front yard, and their doctor, who apparently makes house calls all the time, drives up to them and is like, hey, I know you've had infertility problems, but you're pregnant. I hope that doesn't traumatize you in any way.
Yeah,
And then the
he
mom gets
leaves immediately.
very upset because they've had a child who had this condition, and the child, I believe, died almost immediately. And the husband says,
Yeah, I
well, no,
don't
we can
think
deal with
they.
it now.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think they. Oh yeah, I guess it just did die. It wasn't like they were like, "Oh, we can't do anything for this," and then let it die. It probably just died.
Right. I think that possibly, this is me kind of guessing, but it was one of the first tracked cases, and they sort of took that information and diagnosed it after the fact and
Yeah,
said, well, if this happens again, which there's a chance of, we know how to deal with it.
they said 50-50, like a 50% chance it could happen again.
Right.
This is the real couple. Yeah,
So the woman has a cesarean section, and a good thing too, because when you see this baby looks about 2 years old. There's a
Yeah.
big baby with a big head of hair.
Long incubation time.
And they have it in the little box with the gloves. They ask a doctor when he can come out of the box, and the doctor says he may never come out of the box, or he may grow, used to his environment and he can leave. We just don't know. And the parents continue to visit little Tod as he grows up, and then quickly say, hey, we want to take this kid home with us. And there's also a child, a little girl in the house next door that the
Who's
mom...
taunting them.
Yes, the mom hates. Because the little girl's always running around saying, I love being outside. Let me shove all this dirt in my mouth. I can take anything.
And she's just like drinking out of old bottles out of the trash.
Yeah, she shoves a dead frog in her face.
The kid, I looked up a picture of David Vedder, and the kid looks freaking like him. Like they cast this guy really well.
You mean John Travolta?
No.
Oh, the little baby?
Yeah.
A little bit. I was more struck with how the little boy actually looks like a little John Travolta.
I know.
That's a hard match.
I know. Maybe they would have grown up to be doppelgangers. He would have grown up to be a John Travolta impersonator in a bubble.
That's a great pickup line.
Yeah.
Guess what I played? They get him home. They have a choking scare. I feel like I'm going too scene by scene for this. It's kind of odd. They really... We are moving to Travolta time as quickly as possible. They are
that's the most interesting.
Skimming past. Well, I don't. That might be debatable, but that's what this movie knows you are here for. The movie knows you're here for Travolta. You don't want to see some baby Travolta. Jim Henson's Travolta
Vinny.
babies.
For Vinny Bubblerino.
Oh!
Nice.
Oh, Mr. Carter!
And by the way, okay, so you know what Robert Reed sounds like. You I don't know if you know what Diana Hyland sounds like, but they both are very much like I don't know, like Californian, like basically California people but with no accent, like
Yes.
or maybe like Midwestern people or something. You know, like she's from Cleveland Heights, so.
So a little
And
bit
then
of nasal
there's,
in there.
yeah, and then their son grows up to be what I think sounds like Mark Ruffalo, just like, oh, hey, like, yeah, the accent does not match. I don't know, like maybe they do make a point of him watching tons of TV, so maybe he grew up watching like tons of New York sitcoms.
This is not Ryan Reynolds. Who's in Drive?
Oh, Ryan Gosling, exactly.
It's like Ryan Gosling, where Ryan Gosling said, when I was a little kid, I wanted to have a tough New York accent, and so I just started talking that way, and I kind of got stuck in it, and I just kind of do it now. Maybe that's what Tod is going. Because yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, Dad.
Dead. Yeah.
The kid.
But what do you think about him in this?
What do I think about John Travolta as like his acting in this?
Yeah.
There is something always very needy seeming about Travolta, isn't there? He always looks very pleading, and I'm guessing 50% of that is the eyes, but he just has this vibe, especially in this, of just needing to please.
Yeah.
And it works in terms of, I understand why that makes him a likable presence on screen. In this, I think it hurts him a little bit because everything he does is at one level, and it makes him seem. I don't know. I don't know. Because I
Well,
think
I
he's
just
supposed to be
kept getting
17 in
confused.
this, and he's
Yeah.
22 in real life. He number one,
Okay.
I think he looks too old. Even though he's
Oh
only
yeah.
22, he does not look like he's in high school. And
No.
he's playing this like he's a little
Although
bit
if you look at
arrested
old
at age.
yearbooks, if you look at old yearbooks, maybe.
You mean how people used to look older?
Yeah, like when I would look at the photos of people on the high school wall of like from old class,
Yeah,
they all looked like they chain smoked
not
and
so much in the 70s. I think we're getting like
Okay.
the girl in this looks like she's 16 or 17.
she looks younger,
He
yeah.
looks like he's in college and he's falling in love with a high schooler.
Which is probably not uncommon back then.
No, I don't think that necessarily like would hurt it. I think it hurts it a little bit in a movie about high schoolers.
I think it confused me. His acting confused me because I couldn't tell if he was supposed to be a 17-year-old with like the mind of a child. Because sometimes they would act like he was, and then he would kind of do that, act weird and overreact to things. But then other times he just played everything cool. So I couldn't tell how much of that they were trying to play up.
They say in both of these cases, like of the real kids, saying they would have sudden tantrums. And then they could be very happy and very nice and just like a happy kid, and they could kind of suddenly go from one to the other. I don't know that the direction that Travolta was getting was like the most subtle thing in the world. So,
Right. Yeah.
and he probably also, as much as he wanted to be a real actor, I think when you are on lunchboxes as a dreamboat, you're kind of going on automatic pilot from your dreamboat acting, because he's playing it
Right.
as a kind of a simple romantic teen lead more than any sort of a psychological deep dive into this character.
Which is funny because he's also playing a character that isn't that.
That isn't what.
Like, I mean, is he supposed to be this dreamboat freak show? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I would not
or
say
is it just that he's John Travolta, so he automatically has that? But if you put any other actor in here, he's, the next door neighbor isn't falling for him as easily.
Well, that's kind of the complication of the movie, is that in very early in the movie, the first thing we see, even before we see John Travolta playing this character, is there's the girl next door who is now 16 or 17 talking to her friends, and they say, "So do you ever see him?" And she goes, "Oh no, he barely comes out." And she says, "He's really weird." What I thought she was going to say was, "He's really hot." Like the fact that every character in this movie isn't going like, "Okay, I know this guy is a little weird, he's in a bubble, but he's really hot, right?" Like, I don't care if he's in a plastic wrap or not. I'll go in there and kill him. I don't care. I need to sleep with this guy. So yes, it's a leap of imagination to think that she would not be into him from second one.
Can we rewind just a tiny bit to when she's a little kid and she first meets him? He comes home in this. He comes home in this like on this like gurney with a plastic box on it, and she comes up to him, and she looks at him, and then says, "I'm a monster. I'm a monster. I'm a monster."
I didn't know if that was supposed to be her calling him a monster or she's acting like she's a monster.
That's what I couldn't figure out. What was the direction there for the little girl?
I don't know. That little girl was also a really bad actor.
Yeah.
There was no take. I mean, I guess I shouldn't criticize it's not the acting of a child, it's whoever is directing it. That little girl would do something and then look directly into the camera. She was too used to doing peanut butter ads or something.
Yeah. She would lick her chops.
She'd do a bite and smile.
Yeah. Yeah, anyways. And then she grows up to be, a nice looking lady.
Yeah, she
Nice looking
is.
16-year-old.
I'll go into behind the scenes right away. You might, a lot of times there's, especially with teen things, there's off-camera romances for the two leads. Well, John Travolta did have an off-camera romance with the woman who played his mom,
Wait a second.
with Diana Hyland, who he then got married to the next year, who was 20 years older than him. And then she died the next year of breast cancer, which is
I'm seeing that.
same thing that his wife years later would die of. Poor John Travolta.
No.
It's so tragic.
Gosh.
But I want to know what the story was of how he and the woman who plays his mom got together.
I guess those gloves were a bit too much for him. You think they ever snuck around on set and had some did it through the hole?
I think that glove got a little sticky.
Oh man, we should talk about. For some reason, I remember a scene in this movie that did not happen in this movie,
Okay.
and I must be mixing. I'm obviously mixing up movies, but he goes to the house. He goes back to the hospital after dealing with a prank that the next door neighbor had pulled on him, pretending that she liked him.
Can we talk about that prank before we talk about the
Yeah.
roommate? It's an
Yeah,
odd twist because the girl goes over and invites Travolta to the beach for the 4th of July, which means he will sit in his little box
Gurney.
on the beach looking at everybody. And then
Box on the beach.
and then one of the boys, she always hangs out with these two blonde Aryan boys who wear tiny, tiny shorts. One
and
of
drive
whom,
dune buggies. They look like Scooby-Doo characters.
and one of whom is one of Danny Zuko's gang in Grease,
Oh, nice.
which the same guy who directed this movie directed Grease, which I guess was, and boy, he brought the same level of electric direction to that movie. The two blonde boys dare Gina, the teen girl, to go over and hold Travolta's hand during the fireworks as a mean prank.
All right.
And then she does it. She walks off
For $2.
and he goes, "Gina, hey, where you going?" And instead of just laughing and running away, she goes, "Todd, it was a prank. They dared me to," which is mean and a weird thing to admit to, especially for a teen. But that causes him to go into conniption tantrum.
Yeah.
And then he asks to go back to the hospital. That's our inciting incident for Gina and Todd to have a problem with each other.
Yeah. And it's only for $2. It does not take much for this girl to go into prank mode. Mean bully mode.
$2. That was a month's rent back then.
Yeah. You could buy 50 packs of lemon heads with that.
Or 80 tiny shorts.
Yeah. And so she's so he goes to the hospital and he meets this, basically due to all the experimentation they've done on Todd, they've opened up a wing where they've been able to service other types of patients, like cancer patients who are going through chemo and whose immune systems have been ravaged. And so he meets this kid who's in there who has a tumor. And they bond over their mutual horniness and masturbation.
That character is the weirdest character in this, right? His weird roommate, because his roommate looks like a pervy elf. They cast a bad-faced actor for this.
He looks like the guy in Porky's who's the only one who doesn't get with a woman, or like not in Porky's, but in movies like that, sex romps.
The frustrated horn dog.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he's playing, so I guess that's good casting. It's
Yeah.
weird when that's going to be your roommate who lives in a glass wall between you. Because when they wheel in Travolta, the guy is like, all right. And this kid cries at the drop of a hat. He's so weird. This performance is so strange. And he does a speech about how he wants to get with a girl and other boys are seeing action.
Yeah. And he goes, "Oh, I just can't take it sometimes." And they're both on exercise bikes.
Yeah, they're. and
And
then,
then
oh, do
then
it.
John Travolta goes, "Hey, you ever and he goes, "All the time."
And then cum just sprays up on the glass between them. And then we get to see one of my absolute favorite things. When this happens in TV movies, I'm so happy, which is a celebrity cameo from a celebrity who is not an actor, because astronaut Buzz Aldrin is in this movie. He goes, "Well, hello there, Todd. I understand you're quite the spaceman."
Yeah. Yeah, he's like doing his best impression of acting he knows, which is John Wayne.
Hey, partner.
Yeah, that's such a weird it's funny to put that in the movie if that's not what happened in real life.
I don't. I mean, maybe this is based on two different people.
Yeah, I don't know the story.
It's based on two different people, kind of. Like,
Yeah.
one of them, the most famous one, lived until age 12. He certainly didn't reach high school age.
No.
And the other one died at 17 or 18. So it was just. Nobody was falling in love with the girl next door.
And they never left the thing like he does.
Basically not.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure celebrities stopped by and said hi to them. Maybe Buzz Aldrin came by, but it's not.
Yeah.
Neither horny teen or Buzz Aldrin figure into this movie beyond the scene in the middle.
Yeah. And so that scene with the kid, with his roommate, that's the one that I mix up because I thought for sure that there was a time when the kid, his roommate, dies of cancer, and he's bald and stuff. And in my head, John Travolta goes back to visit him before he dies, and then that's an emotional scene. But what I'm realizing is, I think that I'm mixing up the scene from the movie about the AIDS kid, Ryan.
Oh, is it Ryan White?
Yeah, I think so. Because in that movie, the actor who's playing Ryan White, if that's his name, meets another AIDS patient in the movie, and who is actually played by the real Ryan White.
Oh. Well, his name
We'll
is
have to
Ryan
do that
White.
movie. How about that?
This movie would be better if Travolta did come back and visit him, and his old roommate was, dying, or maybe he's recovering. Like, and he gives an inspiration to Travolta. Like, he needs. I know what this movie is doing, which is just like, love is making him want to live. But like a reconnection with this guy who at first he doesn't like and then became his friend would be a lot better. I'm also realizing I have the movie on mute right now, and I'm kind of glancing up to it just to remember the tone of things, and roommate scene is happening. One reason why the flavor of the scene is so odd is his roommate is in little pajamas and writhing around on the bed the whole time he's doing his lines, and he's like hugging his pillow to his tummy, and then it puts it behind his head. And also the bottoms of his feet are really filthy, and wouldn't they not be in a sterile room?
Yeah. He has the most germ-filled feet. Yeah. The Yeah, I really wish that scene was in here. I don't know what scene I'm pulling this from. But I'm thinking that I'm mixing these two up because they're both based on true stories. Although is probably more true. I mean, one's definitely more true than this.
Right.
But they're built. You're right. They're building this up. It's really this love story. But it bums me out that the kid in real life or whoever never really left, because in this it leads up to him taking a leap of faith and leaving
Sure.
the bubble. Now we don't know, he could have died 10 minutes later. They don't cut to
Yeah.
after that, or they don't say like
Right.
so and so did this.
Because the girl feels bad for what she did. She tells his dad that she wants to help him with schoolwork, and he's getting a closed circuit TV so he can be in the classroom virtually. The way they set up the classroom is absolutely crazy, because they have all the kids are in the classroom facing the teacher, but they have Todd's camera facing the students, not the teacher.
Right.
And the students see Todd in the screen, as opposed
Like
to
as if
putting
he's the teacher.
yes, as opposed to putting Todd in the back of the room with the TV and the camera, so the teacher can see it, the students can see it. But that way, we get a lot of hysterical sight gags where John Travolta will put on like a Groucho Marx disguise when the teacher has his back turned, and the class laughs and laughs, which you would think would win him over to the students, but the students still treat him like he's a freak.
Yeah. And he puts on that. What is that hat? What is that hat called?
Oh, those
it's like
weird macrame style hats. They look like grandma's quilt, but they also look like the hat that a Fat Albert character would wear.
Yeah. They have a little pom-pom ball,
pom-pom,
whatever, on
yes.
top. And that top, and they look like oversized like grandpa, like golfing caps.
Yes, golfer caps.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she feels
Like
bad
something a mime would wear or something.
So the girl
Or
feels
like a real groovy 70s clown.
sorry. I keep cutting you off as you think of new examples of who would wear this hat.
Or like a
Okay, and we need
or like Nardwar.
3 more
Okay, go on.
examples.
Nardwar, 70s clown. Mork.
Anyone from the 70s.
Yeah. Nailed it.
So she goes over to the house and tells Travolta, I want to help you with schoolwork. And then she says, boy, don't you wear anything but shorts? And he goes, oh, it's really hot in here. In real life, she would be like, can you make sure you never have pants on? Can we lose the shirt?
There's a lot of time spent of him standing in front of a disco wall.
Yes.
Like what is that thing
It's
called?
like a light pattern wall. I've really never seen them. It looks like something they would have installed in the floors of Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
But I think what he's doing, he talks about it later, is he kind of loses himself and pretends like he's astral projecting, basically, so he can feel like he's leaving his room, because he will sit in front of these lights and space out.
They look like something out of like a 60s British mod scene or something.
It's something on the set of Red Dwarf.
Yeah. Is that 60s? Is mod like 60s or is that 70s?
Yeah, mod 60s.
Okay. How
should we skip around to this? Because we don't need to beat by
so
beat
then
this.
Right. I mean,
They fall in love.
they end up they fall in love. Like there's scenes of him like she rides a horse and he loves that about her. So there's scenes of her like jumping over his bubble with the horse.
Crazy. He tells the parents they should go on a vacation, so they do. And while he's gone, the girl and his nurse
Ma Fratelli
wheel his box out to the lawn, and she rides his horse around his box, and then he wants her to jump the horse over his box. And I don't know if you paid attention to the box during the horse jump scene.
Oh.
But he transforms into a Filipino man for a quick second.
That box, like, there's no way. I mean, that horse jumps so freaking high. So that's one thing that's funny about she rides this horse around town like the Wild West.
It is supposed to be in Texas. So it makes slightly more sense, except nobody has a Southern accent or wears cowboy hats or seems affected by Texas culture.
No. There's no Alamo talk, for instance.
Nobody ever says that everything is bigger here. Nobody talks about going to a Dairy Queen.
Oh, is that a Texas institution?
Honestly, I spent a year living in Texas. Nathan, they love Dairy Queen. They call them Texas road stops. Oh, no, sorry. They call Dairy Queen signs Texas stop signs.
Oh,
and if
my
you
gosh.
go into the bathroom, the sinks are in the shape of Texas.
What?
Yeah. They love them.
That is wild.
They love them.
Is Dairy Queen like a kind of like the redheaded stepchild of franchises or something?
I
feel like,
but like as opposed to who? Like Baskin Robbins for ice cream?
okay, so like I feel like with Dairy Queens, I feel like every time I go to a new one, I get a different experience.
Talk about that.
Well, you a lot of times you see them and they look like they did in the 80s. You know, there's no updating. So they're not like getting in the new stuff from the franchise. Like it seems like the franchise owners have a little bit more leeway in what they accept from the franchises.
I think, well, one, they may be, this is not the right term for it. They may be personally owned. Like, I think that maybe you
independently owned.
Yeah, I think you
right?
can buy into the franchise and operate your own, and maybe you can make the call on how much you want to be updated. It may also be the fact that ice cream stops, like local ice cream stops, are some of the only local businesses that will be guaranteed to do constant business during the summer, and they're never updated because you don't have to, because it's ice cream. It's just like a tractor beam for people. And also think about how huge in the 80s Dairy Queen was. There was Dairy Queen ads all the time. I was always being flown through the dry ice smoke land of Dairy Queen with chocolate hills and strawberry rivers.
Oh yeah,
they get that
and
perfect
a curly
little swirl. That little swirl.
Yeah. Love it. The there's a Dairy Queen in West Virginia that my dad always likes to go to when we drive through there because he grew up there, and they have been serving their own style of chili for their hot dogs.
Okay,
because it's West Virginia style,
which you have very strong opinions on. You want the
Yes.
slaw. You want the what is it? New England hot dog?
Sure, yeah, the New England style bun.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And the word is that Dairy Queen has been trying to pressure them to use their chili forever, and they're like, no, we make our own rules, dude.
Now, is this because your father goes in and asks about it?
I don't know. He might have asked. He might have asked. Them,
Otherwise, what kind of message boards are you on where you're getting the West Virginia Dairy one single Dairy Queen in West Virginia scoop?
Now there might be other Dairy Queens that do that. There, it's just this is the one that was in the town he grew up in.
I will say the food at Dairy Queen always surprisingly good for that kind of thing.
I used to love their chicken nuggets or tenders or something.
Yeah, they had those tenders.
I would always get there.
Tenders and always, hey, Texas toast. That's why the Texas toast.
Oh, I love a Texas freaking toast.
Also, how remarkable. I mean, maybe it's changed now, but the last time I was there, I believe it's still Dennis the Menace as a cartoon mascot. That's how much things don't change there.
I should say, we have one committed listener to our show.
Yeah.
And he is a very big Dairy Queen fan.
Yeah.
So shout out to our listener, Austin Baxter.
Oh, Austin. a very prominent city in Texas.
That's right.
That's why he likes
The
it.
links don't die. Yeah.
All right. Is Dairy Queen
And then from
in this movie?
yeah,
I'm
from
trying to think. No, it's
from
not.
there it goes. Yeah. From there it goes. He they graduate and she's going to be moving to New York to go to art school or whatever.
Yeah.
And so this prompts him to call the doctor and say, "Look, doc. Look, Mr. Kata. Mr. Kata.
He
am
goes,
I
ooh,
ever gonna-"
ooh, and he raises his hand.
Yeah. Am I ever going to get out of this bubble?
What
Right.
if I had a connection? What if I went up my nose with a rubber hose
Yeah.
and took in the air that way?
That was gold, my friend. And,
Because
and the doctors, yeah.
he has been
Go
going
on.
out of the house in this
Yeah.
suit that looks like an
Oh,
oven mitt.
spacesuit.
In a hysterical. This is not
He
a.
looks-
this is not a movie
he
where
looks like-
I was like laughing. I'm sorry. I know you love your comparisons of what people
Hold
are
on,
wearing.
I've got this.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Just hold your horses, because the hysterical way this is introduced is he goes, I can walk outside, and he shows his parents a drawing he has done, and it's just a big outline of a person with his face in a spacesuit, and they're like, oh, and then they build it for him, like Spider-Man asking for an outfit.
Well, no, he did say that the doctor has told him that he can arrange it, and so I think
Yes, but why did he draw it?
I think because what else are you gonna do in a bubble all
Yeah,
day?
that's true.
Just draw what you want with your future. Okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
He looks like if the guy on the box of the Hamburger Helper was in a mitten.
It's a big orange quilted space suit with a big silver box on the back that he has to like plug himself in and charge
Oh.
it up.
He looks like those guys on the Among Us game.
And I am expecting 3 more things that you think it looks like during the course of this podcast. He goes to school and sits there, and then he wants to show off, so he does a push-up competition with one of the blonde Aryans, which
This sticks in my mind very heavily. I remember this scene.
makes his oxygen run out. And so then
Yeah.
he runs into the oxygen tent that they've set up in the back of the classroom for him. I looked this up after the fact because I was watching it going, he's running into this room with his suit on, which now has germs, takes it off and starts breathing. And he has bet this kid he could win at a push-up contest. And so the kid takes out a dirty-ass $10 bill, the germiest piece of paper you can possibly think of, and slides it under the oxygen tent. So that thing is filled with germs. And apparently Ted DeVita, the older kid who had this, said that scene was ridiculous because people were just handing him things into the oxygen.
Yeah, like when you read what they had to do, like, and they would have to, like, anything they wanted to put in there, they would have to put in this chamber with gas, some kind of gas for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Then they would have to let it sit for like 3 or 4 days before they could actually give it to him. It was like a 10-day process.
I want to read more about his life because things like how did they handle food? How did they handle a bathroom? Like, those are all things that I am curious about.
Yeah, did he have like a... Did he like poop and pee into their gloves? And then they just pulled it through? Then just
What if they
wiped
said
their
yes?
hands?
Okay, so
Yeah.
he's gone through all this. He's graduated in his little space suit. He's flying a kite on the beach in his space suit with his girlfriend. He makes out with his girlfriend in the back of a van, kissing on the plastic face mask.
That his parents are driving, I think?
Yeah, his parents are driving them back, and they're laying in the back of their van making. I'm like, wow, I would not do that if I was a high schooler with my girlfriend in the back seat.
Well, I probably also wouldn't have let my son just laying down back there.
Well,
I
he
don't know.
is in a full body condom, to be fair.
Yeah, I guess it would have been safe.
Okay, so all this has happened, and as you were saying, he invites the doctor over to ask if he can leave his chamber yet.
Because they keep pointing to, like, throughout the show that he is building his immune system. He has been building an immune system.
They think, right? Aren't they kind of...
Well, no, they keep... I mean, they don't say think. They actually say, like...
Okay, you are.
Throughout the thing that he definitely is. They just don't know if it's enough.
Okay.
Like, he's like... Because he says, like, well, you could leave here and be fine, and then a cold could kill you.
Yeah, right.
Or, you know, maybe something like a global pandemic.
Right.
You think he'd be considered high risk?
Well, I don't know if he would care, because he has love on his side, because he decides to step out of his room with no suit and breathe in the air and touch the trees. And he goes to his girlfriend, who is saddling up her horse, and he touches her face and asks for a ride. And she has remarkably few questions.
Mustache ride.
And then she says, now that I see you without plastic between us, I'm just not that into it anymore. Can you put this cling film between the two of us? And they ride off, and a very treacly Paul Williams song plays. I love Paul Williams. I love, you know, his songs for the Muppets or Phantom of the Paradise, but this was a stinker-rooney that he gave to... It's very odd, because the song has lyrics like, let's go out in the country, just the two of us, and live in a one-room shack. And it's like, that doesn't really apply to this situation. It feels like something he had sitting around that he could sell to ABC for a TV movie.
Do you think that, like, can you imagine, like, in the future they get married, and she's like, I just want to run away. We live in a little one-room shack in the forest, and he's like, what? Are you kidding?
Boy, I'm just seeing this now. I forgot all about this. Diana Hyland, who plays his mom, won a posthumous Emmy for this.
Yeah.
Which, okay, sure. I mean, it was because she died, obviously, because her role in this is nothing spectacular.
No, she doesn't. No, not at all. Like, she's fine.
She's fine.
But it's not like I didn't come away going like, man, I didn't have any feelings for her at all.
And to be fair, they don't give her that much to do beyond be concerned.
No, I mean, what was the Emmy Award? What was the one that she got?
It said, "We're sorry" on the side.
Yeah.
She won Best Supporting Actress.
But she's barely even supporting in this.
I know. But she was a TV star, so
the girl who plays Gina.
Yeah.
I love this funny scene where they're like, her and the two Aryan boys are playing in the lake behind their house.
Mm-hmm.
And her and the boy both get out of the water at the same time, and then she grabs a beach ball and goes, let's play catch. And she just throws the ball like far away from him. Like, it's not catch at all. It's more like fetch. She just goes, let's play catch. And then she just starts talking to someone else. Like, it was just like some, dialogue to just get them into the scene. But I kind of felt like she had a really kind of airy kind of delivery, like, but it did kind of feel like how 16-year-olds talk to each other.
I thought she was very good. I think she is the best actor in this show. She sold some really weird, kind of clunky dialogue and made it sound like something that, like I said, like a teen girl would naturally say. I'm kind of surprised she didn't do more with her.
Well, I was thinking that maybe that was unintentional.
You
Do
think
you know what I mean?
you mean like she's not trying to do that, that's just her personality?
Yeah, and then if she tried to get other roles, like as an adult, or because she was, I'm assuming, but like
Mm.
that, you can't, like that's just how she acted.
That's possible, but I can think of plenty of other actors who have just as limited a range, and then that's just a case of casting them in the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I mean, there's some people who should never play smart. And it,
What's the
hmm.
what's the who's the who the actor, the black student in class,
Oh,
she's famous.
she played Will Smith's mom on Fresh Prince.
No, wait, no.
Yeah,
Oh,
not Aunt
her real
Viv.
mom.
Yes,
Her real mom. But isn't she also famous for other stuff too? Really
probably.
big
That's the
stuff?
only thing I know her from off the top of my head.
Um I'm looking at the cast list.
Good
Um
first choice.
yeah, just give me a second,
Sure,
folks.
sure, sure.
Yeah, Anne Ramsey is the nurse who comes to the drunk nurse who comes to help him.
Mm.
And she, the throw mama from the train and all of that stuff. Oh, here it is. Yeah, okay, so she was I guess she was also on Welcome Back, Kotter, and she played Vi Smith on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Okay, I thought she was in other sitcoms like 227 or something like that, but no. I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah, you're thinking of something else.
Yeah, what's my problem?
I don't
She was on Good Times. Okay. Let's see. What's happening? Good Times. Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels.
Uh-huh.
But who else is there anyone? Oh, the kid. There's that kid who shows up just for the scenes where they all go out to the football field.
Mm.
He's the one who asks him, I've always wanted to know. He's like eating an apple or something. He's so weird in this.
Yeah. Are you just commenting on his performance?
He looks familiar to me, and I can't.
So
picture who he is.
I thought the same thing. I really didn't. When I was looking over his stuff, the only thing I knew him from was he plays Dill in To Kill a Mockingbird. He plays Scout's best friend when he's a little kid, and for whatever reason, he didn't seem to transition to other things. He has such an interesting face. He looks a little like Buster Poindexter from the New York Dolls and Scrooged, which is maybe what you're thinking of. That very long face, squinty eyes, very prominent bones.
And he acts really weird in this, really strange.
Yeah, I mean, he could be a really good character actor. It's a shame he didn't do more.
In an episode of Amazing Stories or something.
Yeah, that's what he would be perfect in.
Yeah. Yeah, so now I one more thing to say about it before we kind of wrap it up. Like I did the music in this, the score is that it basically all of it sounds like the coming back from commercial break in a sitcom.
Sure.
Like that's what all the music sounds like. And I love that. I love TV movies. I always talk about this. I love that about TV movies from the 70s. They all still have that traditional TV score.
Well, it's probably because the music was by Mark Snow, who did Dynasty and The Love Boat, and then he did X-Files later on. He's just been doing TV forever, but he did a lot of classic TV themes.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so what did you think overall about this?
Overall, so the real kids, number one, they never saw it's Ted DeVita. It says he died between 17 and 18. I don't know why there's that unsureness on Wikipedia, at least about his age. They never saw their high school graduation. They didn't have this walking out of the tent moment.
No.
And even the spacesuit. So the spacesuit was a real thing. NASA made spacesuits for both of them. Vetter, I think, used his. I'm not going to say who did what. Okay, one of the kids used it.
I think it was Vetter.
Well, they both had them.
Yeah, I mean, I think he wore his like 7 times.
He wore his a handful of times, and then they made him a new one for when he got bigger, and he never used it again. And the other one used it once. Yeah. Both of them hated how... I'm assuming that like news cameras were there, or people were staring or whatever when they used it. For whatever reason, they didn't use it around.
Well, but also... in this, it's just a battery pack. And theirs were actually connected to a tube back to the freaking room or whatever.
I'm sure they were. I mean, it would be like a spacewalk. The fact that it's this little lunchbox-sized thing on the back of Travolta's outfit is fairly ludicrous that it could power a germ-free oxygen system for him.
Yeah.
Okay, so you take all of that... You're dealing with a real life disease. And for a long time, there was this trope on TV. They would call it the Disease of the Month movies. It was a thing where they would have the newest thing everyone was concerned about or disorder or whatever, do a movie about it. So this kind of falls into that category. I don't know where in the timeline, if this was one of the originals or if this was just in a pantheon of them. But it does bother me if you're talking about a real disease and you don't get the facts right. That's just like a bare minimum of what you have to do. I don't love that. And also, I guess this is just an excuse to have a love story between two teens, and the trope of one teen is dying is a very old trope, and it's still being made into movies today. That's all this is with a real life disease attached to it, and terminology that was still in the public imagination because of these kids. I think that there is a very interesting movie that you could make from these cases. I'm kind of amazed that nobody has done it, because there's so many, not to, sound like a jerk and talk about it just in like writing themes, but it's about what is a person like when they're in isolation? What's a person like when they are being observed at all times? To have a child who can never know human touch, that's fast. I mean, I used to work in an adoption agency, and this is kind of a little bit of a different thing, but I'm sure that there's similar ramifications to it, is especially kids from Russia who were from packed orphanages. There would be huge problems when adults would adopt the kids for them to emotionally or physically bond to the parents, because they had had so little human contact when they were small in the orphanage that it just wasn't part of their brain's tools. So what is it like to have a child who never gets an actual skin-on-skin contact? And when they said like these kids would go from having tantrums and being very immature to acting their age and being very friendly, that makes sense that you would just not have control of yourself. What does it mean to have a human experience in that kind of condition?
And this movie dresses basically none of that.
No. And also, what role do these adults have in deciding all of this for a child who has no say for so long?
Well, they definitely let them off the hook in this.
Yeah.
Like, no question. Because they're like, do you blame us? The parents ask him, do you blame us?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I don't blame you.
Right.
Um, he basically, just lets them off the hook 100%. There's no question of whether or not they should have tried to have a baby.
Yeah. Right. Right. So I'm not going to say this movie is like evil or harmful. It's just kind
Yeah.
of, it's nothing, kind of. It's very much a product of its time, and I can
Yeah.
see why teens loved it, because it was a young John Travolta, and basically kind of his first movie. Carrie would be out the same year. And then it's like I said, it's one teen's dying and the other is in love with him, and it's a slow love story. And kind of the girl in this is the one who calls the shots,
Yeah.
simply by virtue of the fact that she can move out of the room. So that kind of agency is attractive, especially in love stories that are kind of more geared towards young women.
Yeah.
But like I said, I am going to read more about this. I'd like to read more about what this condition was like. The good news is 80% of children born with this condition are 100% curable at this
Great.
point. It sounds like a long, miserable process. Like there's a lot of transfusions, there's a lot of therapy, but it is something that kids can overcome or beat, which is great. But I would like to learn more about this. And there's also a book that David Vedder's psychologist or psychiatrist
Yeah.
put out, and the family was fighting against them releasing. It looks like it's self-published, so
Like it was written in 1995 and it only got released like in 2016 or something.
yeah, I don't know if the parents passed away or what the deal was. And since it's self-published, and if a publisher won't touch it, I don't know. I'll read it with a grain of salt, but I'm interested in what they say about the conditions and in the way that the kid was kind of treated as an experiment to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I'm interested in learning more about it, and I'd like to see somebody else tackle it. And
I liked the movie. I hate that it's not truly based, that it's not true. Like that it just, like once you get to John Travolta years, it stops being true. At least I don't know the other kid's story, but the Tod, I guess maybe it's more based on Tod than it is the other one, but I just hate that because it's one of those things where you're like there's a scene in the movie about Freddie Mercury where it's this really great scene. Something happens at the end where he like, I think he like confesses to him that he has AIDS, and then they go out and do the best show of their life at Live Aid or something.
Yeah, right.
But like that scene didn't happen in real life,
Right.
and I'm like, that's like the whole movie, right there. And it's like that's like, and then you're like, what the heck? This is. It just completely changed my opinion. It made me bummed about this movie, even though I remember fondly liking it and being like, oh, this is a really cool story.
I had the same reaction. Well, at least I will say they didn't name his character after one of these kids. That would have been really tasteless. It's a fictional story about this fictional guy, so that's fine. I had the same thing. I don't know, we're going long. I just watched that movie Mank finally.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
About the guy who, it's David Fincher, who I usually am head over heels over. I didn't think it was that great, but it was kind of the same thing where even after the fact I was going, I wonder how much of that was made up, and it turns out a fair amount of it. And I had kind of the same feeling. It was just like, I know things have to be changed for dramatic emphasis. You're telling a story. There has to be a narrative. You have to connect some things. People need to be consolidated. There can't be a million people in a million directions. I'm fine with all of that. It's just when they change big facts to wrench the story in the direction they want it to go in, I don't know. Just make up another story. Call it something else. Like, we'll understand what you're talking about, kind of. Like,
that's what like P.T. Anderson, Paul Thomas Anderson movies are like. They're like they always end up being based on something. I feel like, and then, but they're not. This isn't based on it. Doesn't say based
literal.
on a true story.
Yes,
right. It's like no, some of these are real people, or this is based on a religion or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But they're more like it's just it's just an alternate universe of this thing, and you don't have to say based on a true story. You can make up any drama you want.
Right. I think a lot of that probably comes down to marketing. It's easier to market a story people have heard about or say to people, this is a true story, and more people are apt to see it. I mean, you said like it's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, one of 10 directors who get to make whatever they want and make original stories, and everyone else has to make the Tennessee Tuxedo movie. You know what I mean? Like,
have you seen that? We can go out on this. I saw a trailer. My brother showed me a trailer for this movie. I think it was made in Canada. It's a movie that is about Celine Dion. And it's all about her, and it's about how she marries that older guy.
Yeah.
That's their agent or whatever.
It's a made-for-TV movie?
I don't know if it's made for TV or not.
I hope it is. I want to watch it now.
I know. But it is not about her. Like, everything about it is just like her, except it's someone else's name. It's like Gia or something.
Right.
Instead of Celine.
Maybe so you can't get sued.
Yeah, and it's like, it is so clearly, literally, like, this is what the story is. Yeah. It's the story of Celine Dion. But, like, it's like Gia Deline or something. Like,
I always like that better. Almost always, I should say. I think sometimes it does work, but you're just asking for more criticism when you do that.
This feels like, though, I like that too, but this feels like they wrote a movie about Celine Dion and then somehow
lost
maybe
the
they
rights.
Were sued. Like, surely they didn't have the rights to the music, right?
Sure.
And then you're like, can we actually, like, because you could still make a movie about Celine Dion. It's not illegal to make a movie about someone, but if you can't use their music, then
that happens a lot, especially for like,
right.
I've watched. There's a lot more movies about the Beatles made in England that don't get really released here, but I've seen them, and none of them get the rights to the Beatles music, and it's so funny and awkward that they can't ever use it. They have to be like, lovin',
so
lovin'.
It all sounds like the Ruddles, Ruddles music. Well, and that's the thing. So I feel like they were just like, look, we're making this movie. Let's just change the names, and we'll just do our own music.
Right. I'll say the other movie I want made. I want a movie about the relationship between Travolta and the mom actor.
Yes, now that's
a movie.
Yes. Hey, you ever all the time? And then their curtain closes. And there's just silence. So thank you for listening. This one came hot and fast. No trailer this week. We're on a holiday hangover, and I think next week we'll start back up with the normal recording sessions. But there probably won't be a trailer next week either. But thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, like, and subscribe to on all your favorite podcast services where free podcasts are allowed to be. And by the way, those reviews.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. If you are looking for our podcast, we are supposed to drop every Saturday, and it has had a problem with appearing in your favorite podcast feeds like Apple or Spotify or such. Become our liker on Facebook in our Facebook group, because it will always drop there. every Saturday. I'm sorry to make you go to Facebook, one of the most toxic things on earth, but just subscribe to us and then you never have to look at it again except for once on every Saturday.
Or if you just every Saturday go to networkspecialpodcast.com, it'll always be posted there for sure.
You can.
That's where it comes from.
Bypassed old Zucky.
Yeah, you could put your own RSS feed in your podcast service.
Take that, Sucky Zucky. Bye.
Bye.